Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. We are in the car, which means we saw a brand new film. The film we saw tonight was the newest sci-fi thriller by Angel Studios, The Switch. Shift. That may be an indication for later.
Oh gosh.
Anyway, so let's get right into it. DJ, what did you think about this film on a scale of 1 to 10?
I think I'll give it a 6.
Okay, why?
It's fairly entertaining, has some issues, but more than anything else, it just doesn't hit its story beats as well as it could. It misses some points. There's some issues with, there's some character development issues. There's some motivational issues, and there's some weirdness with the ending that I don't like as much. I get the source material it's coming from, but there's just some kind of weirdness there. But all in all, I enjoyed it, so it gives a little bit more, but there's some problems. I'm gonna have to beat it apart a little bit later on. But what about you?
Okay, I would actually just give it a 5. It really is kind of one of those films that sits kind of in the middle for me. There are parts of it that are really well shot, and then there's parts of it that aren't so well shot. There's some good visuals, there's some bad visuals, good story beats, bad story beats, decent acting. Actually, acting in general was pretty good in this film.
The acting was honestly the best part.
Yeah.
My issue is with just some of the characters just don't make sense. They act well, like the actors portray the character well. The character just doesn't make sense.
That's true. So one of the things about this film is that it is supposed to be kind of a reimagining / retelling of Job, the book in the Old Testament.
Yeah.
It does hit most of its points. There are some things that I think they definitely could have explained a little bit better and explained a little bit more. And then there's a couple of parts in it that were kind of unnecessary, I guess, to the film. The film can drag at times, but otherwise they did a fairly good job with it. It's just kind of too big of a premise, I guess, to try to fit into what they were trying to fit it into.
The sci-fi part is a backdrop to the main story, which is fine, but it's the more interesting part of the story.
True. Anyway, I think that we've hit all of our points, right? So, you want to move into spoilers?
Yes.
All right, spoilers. But before we get into spoilers, if you like these reviews, please leave us a like, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications. We do a new review every week. So if you're interested in knowing what's going on in the movie theaters and things like that, you can subscribe to this channel. You can also check us out on Facebook. We do a recap every week of the box office and also do different things regarding entertainment world in general. Otherwise, we'll continue on with this with spoilers. I cannot believe that at the end of the film, it actually turned out to not just be a reimagining, but I was surprised that he got sent to the universe of The Chosen and Nefarious showed up. Like the main character from Nefarious showed up to try to create the Angel Venger initiative.
Oh my gosh.
So,
what's your power? I can turn water into wine. You're in. What's your power? I can shift between universes. And what's your power? I
got talked down to by Glenn Beck.
Oh, hurts. Oh, glory.
So, anyway, this film, if you know the story of Job, you can kind of see where it's going to end. It even says the ending in the middle of the film, because our main character Kevin actually does retell the story of Job in the story that's supposed to be the retelling of Job. So literally the ending is spoiled, I guess, in the middle.
It's not, though, because the way they fix it is a little different than you might expect. But
that's fair.
The biggest twist in the movie actually isn't the Job thing at all. It's actually really clever. It was one of the things I liked about the film. It had nothing to do with the story at all. The best twist was who the actual shifters were the whole time.
That's true.
That was good. That was really good.
Like the fact that I always forget his actual name. He played Rudy and Samwise, right? What's his name?
I can't remember.
He's also in Stranger Things. He's the most famous actor other than Neil McDonough.
Sure.
That's his name?
The villain.
Yeah, he's the most famous actor other than the villain who's in this film. He's
the old guy from the studio was someone I recognized too, but I can't remember what he's from. But I recognized him.
Okay.
Those were the three I recognized. Everyone else was someone I didn't, including the wife. I didn't know who that was. But
turns out Samwise is actually the shifter. He's like the guy that's putting everything in order for the Benefactor, or the devil, essentially. That was a really cool twist, and not only that, they did a really great job. This is one of those things where it's like some of the shots were great, some of them weren't. When it came to having the same person in the scene multiple times, they did a great job. Like when he's getting chased down by Samwise, they did a really great job of just putting him over multiple times.
Yeah, that was done well.
And that's one thing I have to commemorate this film for. The worst visual, however, in my opinion, was any time that the guns were shot. Yeah. Those bullets were way too slow.
There was some weird visuals with the shooting. Yeah. They had like bullet lines, like bullet tracing lines, which was kind of weird.
And the bullets were slow. And then they would hit the impact, and then there was a distinct second between impact and the little thing that exploded.
Yeah.
So it was like a double impact on a slow bullet. It was just the weirdest visual.
I know you found it cheesy, but I really enjoyed the scenes in the beginning that shows the beginning scene is interesting because it shows him climbing out. There's narration. Yeah. And then in this one, the narration's actually done really well and it's timed well.
Right.
The only weird thing about narration, there's a long chunk in the middle of the movie where there isn't any, so he narrates for like a while. And then there's a long chunk where there's none, and then he narrates at the end. It's not bad. It's just weird. It's just I kind of forgot there was narration. It was long enough I forgot it was a thing until it came back. I was like, right, narration. I forgot.
The narration at the beginning wasn't the cheesy part for me.
You were the love stuff. That's what I mean.
Well, not even the love stuff. There were scenes in it where it just felt like you were drowning in cheese, and it was like the most boring parts of the film.
I enjoyed those parts. I enjoyed the parts where they were like, it was like showing flashbacks to life. The only complaint I have is they reuse shots a lot. Yeah. There was the first flashback they show is all original. They show when they first met.
Well, yeah,
and that's a really powerful moment. And then they're having a conversation, and it's showing. She's talking about their future, and it's showing it, and she's kind of joking a little with him. Yeah. But then it actually shows those things happening, and then she talks about like the bad thing is going to happen, and they allude strongly to this thing, and you pick up quickly. I think about the third flashback, it shows that they had a child and lost them, and so it's like really heavy hit, but you don't know what happened, what the reasoning was, and throughout the end of the film, you never actually learn what happened to him, and But the villain in this, like his relationship to the main character, is like prevalent throughout all the flashbacks and the scenes and everything. You kind of see there's hints at his manipulations, and then he straight up says what he's done, and it connects really well. And it just, the villain was solid.
No, he did an amazing job. He played the character just right, so it's just menacing enough and just offbeat enough that it really, really works. And seriously, DJ, the love stuff for me was not the cheesy stuff. The cheesiest parts of the film.
I'm not talking about the love. I'm talking about the beginning, the scenes.
That wasn't even cheesy. I actually liked that part.
What was the part that was cheesy?
I didn't care for the part where it's like whenever he runs into people and he's like kind of like doing his little bit where he's being super nice, and then his neighbor suddenly is like, "Oh, I know who you are. I want you to teach my children," and blah 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 blah.
Oh, that was
that never really gets explained. It just kind of feels like it was just there to be there. That was kind of
you're talking about the part where he's like doing good things for people.
Not even that,
but it just kind of the ones that come out of nowhere. Yeah. Like when he's feeding the people in the fences.
I liked that.
It was a weird scene because you didn't really know exactly what was going on, like what the people on the fence for, but you understand that they're not doing well.
Yeah.
I didn't mind the only part that was weird was the shine of light thing, because he was like, "You're the one."
Yes, that scene was cheese. That whole scene was just cheese.
Didn't bother me until later when it found out that the guy never gave the stuff out. So, like, how did they learn about all of this stuff? It doesn't really. I think it said that they just like had learned about it from the outreach. Like, it had been given down from someone else, but it's not really well done to show like exactly how he learns. That was kind of weird, kind of came out of nowhere.
Also, why the kids knew this little light of mine never really kind of makes sense.
Well, they say that like it hits him and you know why it hits him, but you don't. Yes, it never explains why they know these things. That's actually probably one of the biggest problems of the film, is there's so many Deus Ex Machina moments where it fits the plot and it moves the character, but it doesn't make any sense why they know this. It's like the plot exposition thing all over again. These characters just appear that just know things they really shouldn't. And then the other problem I had is like it doesn't explain how the science, how like the science works, which is okay. Like you can leave it mysterious.
Yeah.
Except for the main character, it
suddenly figures out
how to use it at the last minute, without any like it was not working. It was like broken. It wasn't working for him, and he couldn't get it to work properly. And then suddenly he's like a genius and knows how it works. That bothered me a little bit. There's no explanation as to why he knows how to use it, or how it relates to the other equipment, because we don't know how the equipment watching works, but you obviously know they have the ability to see other universes. But suddenly there's a machine that shows the exact coordinates of his and what multiverse universe that his wife is in, and the coordinates to get there, and then he suddenly knows how to put them in. That bothered me. It would have made more sense if he just accidentally ran into it, or if it at least showed how he learned how to use it. I wouldn't say the movie's too short. I think it just loses focus. I think if they took out a little bit of less of the flashbacks and a little less of like some of the cheesy stuff, and gave a little bit more explanation as to when he gets the device, if a little more of him fluctuating through universes, it would have given him like learning how it works or something, would have given a little bit more to the film. I understand that's not the point. The point is in the tech. The point is supposed to be the message. But if the message is delivered with a point that's not entertaining, it kind of loses its oomph. And this is a little hitty over the heady, which is something I'm not usually into anyway. So it really could use a little more of the sci-fi and a little more innuendo, a little more subtlety.
But at the same time, it's kind of hit over the heady, but it doesn't actually clearly define what's hitting you over the head with.
Correct, which actually makes it a little okay, because it doesn't get super. The only religious it really gets is it mentions God a lot specifically, but that's it.
It's God and like he's literally writing scriptures. He's praying. He's like it's going through like.
But
all
it's
these,
vague. It's not.
Yeah.
It's like non-denominational, non-specific. It's like non-script. It's just generic God.
Well, it's also so generic that literally it would have been nice if they just. I had kind of a similar thing with Nefarious. It would have been nice if just once, like, you know, you take a little bit of the like beating scenes and you literally just have him flat out say something. Like, just take a stand.
Either have the guts to say what you want to say, or just be a little less, be more subtle or less. They almost play they push to the line, and they kind of cross it but back off. It's like either push across your message or back off. Well, you're just too. It's too. Yeah, Nefarious, I had that problem worse. Nefarious, it was literally him versus a demon. It was just the two of them. And this one, there's tons of other people and other factors involved. Yes. So you can be a little more vague and it work because there's a lot more going on. But it still would have been better if they'd either just leaned into it more or just been fully metaphorical, where it wasn't on the note, like it's a metaphor for these things rather than literal.
Well, yeah, like it would have been nice if it was just kind of like a metaphorical thing, so you could actually like take from it and be like, oh, okay, like the general idea, you're following it along. But it also just would have been nice if they just clearly said something. I'm just saying, it's literally I'm frustrated because they didn't pick it. Like, if they had picked one way, I would have been like, okay, bold choice, but I can accept it. Or if it goes the other way, I go, that would have been a very interesting film. I understand it, but you're not necessarily going to get other people to understand it. The thing is that it's so in the middle and so wishy-washy, though, that literally I don't think somebody just coming into this film is going to get anything except for this is a religious movie of some sort.
This is literally an argument that can be made about probably all just about a lot of movies in general. Is like they rarely can like really commit to something. Like even we talk about like the woke stuff, right?
Yeah.
A lot of them don't even commit to that. It's like it's put in there enough to like make people think that they care, but it doesn't commit. I'd actually have more respect for the movie if it just like went into it. Like
that's what I'm saying.
Like just did it.
No, like that's
just
what I said.
Either
Yeah.
push the message or back off or be metaphorical. But this whole like almost. I don't like preaching. I don't like when the.
No, I don't.
I don't like when. What I don't like, what I mean by that is when literally the actors or like the people turn to the audience almost and like lecture them. That doesn't work. And they don't do that in this one, which is good. That's one that I can't take. But you can take a stand for something, or you can be metaphorical. This halfway thing doesn't work so well. But I was going to compare it to Tolkien and C.S. Lewis. Tolkien is metaphorical. Everything he says has a purpose. There's a world, but it's all a metaphor. C.S. Lewis is like Aslan is Jesus.
He's more clear.
He's a lot more clear. This movie tried to take some kind of halfway between that, and it got a little muddled in the message.
It got really muddled in the message, and then the other thing is that it kind of sunk farther for me, because literally it has a thing where I wish other films did this. It actually has a timer on the bottom of the beginning of the end credits that says like there's a message. It would be nice if movies actually did that. If they're like there is a mid-credit scene. Here's a timer. There's a mid-credit scene. They could take that. I would like that instead of having to look it up real quick and maybe miss it. But anyway, so they do this thing where they're like, there's a special message, and then the main character's actor comes out and he's like, I have a very important message to share with you. And I'm like, okay, here's the part, I'll accept this. Like, kind of cheesy, really hitting it home, kind of hammy, but
well, that's the point.
I can accept
that's
it.
the part where you can lecture, like after the movie's over. Like there were a lot of TV shows that used to do this, where they'd have an episode of a TV show. Like this was done in the 80s and 90s even. They had an episode of Family Matters that did this.
Right.
It was a police one, and they had at the end of the episode, the actors came out and said, hey, you know, this is a really important message, and they kind of did a little preachy thing, which is fine. They did it after the thing was over.
Well, yeah,
or they'll do it before it starts. Yeah, or they used to do this a lot with drugs. If there was going to be a big episode featuring drugs, they'd open the episode with an opener saying, hey, this episode deals with dark themes and drugs, but it's really important message that we really think you need to hear.
Yeah. And
then you could then make the decision if you want to continue or not. That I'm okay with. You can be as preachy as you want before and after. Just don't do it in the movie.
Right.
And this one kind of does. It waits till the end of the film to get a little preachy.
But it doesn't get preachy.
Well, it's about selling the film. Yes.
Yeah, no. And the thing is that the special message is literally sell more tickets for this film so it makes money.
That's
it. That was the special message. Was you can get your friends to watch this film. It has such an important message. And it's like, but you don't have a message.
It would have made more sense. I was waiting for him to say something like, oh, this Christmas season, you know, give to others and give to charity, and here's somewhere you can help. But it's like, no, give other people, buy tickets for other people. And I'm like, okay, you can make the case that's, and look, people might, a movie, I can get behind that. But when you specify that it's a free ticket to the movie you just watched, it comes off a little heavy-handed. Do you really believe in your message, or do you just want to sell your product? Now, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. They just want to help find whatever, but it's a weird way to put it.
Well, it's a weird way to put it, too, because he's like, it's such an important message. And then it's like, sitting back and thinking about it, I was like, but you didn't really have a message. Like, I'm sorry to say, but this film isn't really like
the
profound.
message is to endure. The problem is it doesn't actually do a really good job of showing how bad he was in, because it actually makes it clear that he was kind of protected and taken care of pretty decently. A lot of his issues was with what he had lost. If anything, it feels more like it was about getting over loss, but then the ending ruins that. Right. Because the ending, he gets everything back, like Job does, but it's a different thing. He doesn't move on and get someone new and a new family. He gets the same woman from an alternate universe. So he literally actually doesn't progress. He goes right back where he started from.
Well, he ends up like back in time in a sense, where he just relives his relationship and gains this new relationship with the same woman, which I get he was like going after her the entire time, but it would have actually been more interesting if he literally showed up and it was actually like Tina.
I would have actually given it more had it been a different person, because he's moved on from her. He needs to move on, and this is like the Captain America all over again, where like he gets the girl anyway by using time shenanigans. Like, let people move. They even have that in the thing where she's like,
"You moved on, I moved on.
I moved on. Mourn with me." And he's like, "No, I'm not going to move on. I'm going to get you 2.0.
I'm going to get you back, girl."
Yeah, it's her 2.0. It's like that kind of defeats the. I don't know. That rubbed me a little bit. Him getting the girl and everything is fine. It just should have been it should have been a different person. Yeah. And you can make the argument that it is because it's not her, but it's her. Like
yeah. And the other thing too is
that
like
hit hard.
It's also like, why wouldn't you just send him back to where he was taken from if you're going to give him the same girl? Not like, if he's going to have a relationship.
I kept thinking at the end of the movie, I'm like, what about her? She was more. Does she get a time shifting trial, and she's in another universe, and she gets a different version of him?
That's a sequel.
Like what? She's just sitting there mourning, like all sad that he's gone, and nothing ever happens of it.
No, it's the shift and the shiftee.
And even then, it was weird because, like, well, that was the first time I shift her, was she kept the necklace. It's like, well, that's my version. That's her. Well, yeah, you've had 4 versions of her at this point. At this point, what even is it cheapens the point when he's like, I can just change who your relationship with on the go, and it's like, okay, that seems like a little too much power, but all right.
Yeah,
I don't know. He plays it. The villain plays it so well. Like the sci-fi elements. If this was a straight sci-fi film, it actually would have been far more interesting.
Oh yeah, no, this is an amazing concept.
And you could have I don't mind the praying and all that stuff in there. Like, that's fine. The problem is that, like, him being religious and everything is fine, but I actually think it'd be more entertaining because the villain acknowledges God.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he straight up says, he's there.
He makes it very clear from the beginning.
Like, he's the devil. Well, no, I'm not talking about that, but but he makes it clear that it would have been more interesting if he just denied him. Like, who are you talking to? Who is that? Like, keep him confused. But he makes it very clear that who he is and what he's there for.
Yeah. Which
kind of cheapens that relationship a little bit, but it works because the guy who plays it does such a good job. He plays that villain pristinely. The concept of the villain doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. He's got like one universe that he owns and he controls it, and they have the setting where he gives out the choice every time. But it kind of makes it like Kevin is the creator of every alternate universe, revolves around Kevin.
That's true.
Like Kevin is the center point of the universe, and everything revolves around him. So whatever choice he makes determines how the universe goes. And I'm like, that's a lot of power for one person to hold.
Well, no, and the entire time it's like he's like, you're not special, you're not special, you're not special. But then it's just like, bro, your universe revolves around this one man's choice. Everything went to crap when he told you no.
Yep.
Anyway,
in fact, it took him 5 years to recover from it.
That's true. All right, I think we've talked this movie to death pretty much. It's an okay film.
I enjoyed it. It's just messy. It's like a film that I kind of felt about the same way I did about Little Mermaid. Like, the good parts are really good and give it a lot of potential, and the bad parts make you feel like, man, this could have been amazing.
Yeah, it had great potential, and it floundered the potential. That's kind of just how 2023 has been feeling lately.
Yeah,
anyway.
You could say I blame Angel Studios, but it's like Angel Studios is an up-and-coming studio, and they're actually making interesting films. They just have technical problems.
Well,
the big studios aren't doing a whole lot better, and they've been around forever.
Well, yeah, it's interesting because it's like Angel Studios is actually doing things that are like new with a classic moral undertone.
Yeah.
The issue is that Angel Studio is having an issue with its execution of message.
Yes.
In my opinion. Everything else seems pretty good. There's some graphic stuff and there's some sound stuff that needs work. But at the same time, what can you expect when you have a studio that's literally making... They made like 5 films, I think, at this point this year. 5 or 6. Like every 2 months, they've released a new film.
Yeah, they did this, Nefarious, they did...
The Blind, I think they were behind it, weren't they?
The Blind, maybe?
They made The Chosen, the TV show.
Yeah.
And they've released a couple of other things. They have like 3 in the line next year already.
Did they do that one where the guy's hunting for the hostages? Was that them? Somebody else.
Yes. Sound of Freedom.
Sound of Freedom.
They did Sound of Freedom.
Yeah, so they had a few this year.
Yeah, so they've released like 4 or 5 films this year, and each of them are $5 million or something like that. So on $5 million budget, these are actually pretty impressive.
That actually makes it more impressive.
Yeah.
Because these films are like, they would make great made-for-TV films.
Oh, yeah.
Like, where you're not going, like... I like to see things in theaters, but these films are like the kind of films like a Hallmark movie.
Well, they kind of feel like the films that should be put directly onto the streaming service.
Yes.
Like they're low budget, but they're an interesting concept, but maybe it just wasn't good
Execution
enough,
is a little rough, but on $5 million, you have companies spending 100 times this.
This is literally the definition of a made for TV film.
Yeah, and you got studios spending 100. I was going to say my last comment here. I know we talked about this a little long, but this is big for me because you have a studio that spent 1/100th of what like Marvel spent on a movie, and it's getting closer to getting close to better.
It's actually really close in quality.
If they did, I feel like if they had 10-15 million, they'd make a better movie.
Probably.
Maybe not. I mean, some of the problems it looks like might just be they're focused on the message rather than the film, which is fine. But if you want the film to do better, you need to give the film more. And I think they'll get better. I think they'll get better at it. They'll take feedback and they'll kind of figure out a lane, and I think they'll just get better. It's just kind of sad that these interesting concepts will get missed, because it's like an author whose their first book isn't that great, but the idea is interesting, but it's their first write, so it's rough, and you can't really go back and change it really anymore. I mean, you can, but it's not going to be the same. It's going to be sad that when they finally get this going, to look back like, look at all those films that could have been amazing if they had this talent back then. But I'm interested to see how it goes, because I want to see small studios like this shake up the industry and put them on notice, because when a film like this can come out and like do pretty well, it puts those guys like, oh man, we spent $400 million on a film and they're actually making more than us. That's not good.
Well, and the other thing is Angel Studios has not been hurting on making a profit. I think all of their films this year have made a profit.
They've all made a profit. I don't know how much. I know, but I think The Sound of Freedom did. I think like
Sound of Freedom did big.
I think it was like over 100 million.
Yeah, it was big.
And it was like on a $10 million budget. So it's like, yeah, they made their money back and then some. Yeah. Which is good, because then they can use the money they make to then put towards new projects.
Which is what they're doing. We had a commercial. We had 3 new commercials for Angel Studios
in this film. Yeah.
Anyway, we've gone on long enough, I think. We could talk about a lot of these different things. I think we could do a podcast episode actually on small studios, Angel Studios.
That'd be fun. Like that. Yeah, we should do that.
Yeah, we could do that. Let us know if you'd like that in the comments below. Otherwise, we're done here. Would you recommend in theater, or do you think like wait for Amazon Prime?
I think because of the sci-fi elements of this, it might be worth a theater watch.
Yeah.
Just because sci-fi films do better with the larger screen and sound, because you get a lot more of the immersion and you get a lot more explanation. Sci-fi fantasy films, I always kind of feel would be better in theaters, even if they're lower budget, because it's hard to see what's going on at home.
That's fair.
Other than that, it's still, I think, would be worth waiting. If you want to see it, I would say give it a watch. If you're not interested in the theater, give it a chance on streaming. I don't know where Angel Studio stuff streams, but
I've seen all their stuff show up on Amazon eventually.
Amazon? Okay.
I think so. Otherwise, they have their own. I think they have their own service.
They might.
Who knows? But yeah, if you're going to go to the theaters, I also recommend like bring friends, like bring people, because the theater we went in didn't have a lot of people. It would have been more interesting if we had more friends to like talk.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's it for us. See you guys in the next video.
Thanks for watching.